Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have a liftoff.
What's up, Doom Nation? Hello. Good night.
What happened, Captain Fetterman? Did you have a stroke over there, buddy? What's
Stroke
up,
a little
everybody?
bit.
Yeah, we're back for another episode. You are listening to the Two Doom Men podcast. It's Skaggs, and it is the Captain.
Hello.
And we are here to do our next episode. We are going to kind of just honestly really pick up where we left off last week.
Yeah.
With our Pro-Wargressives episode. We kind of got a little bit of a part 2 here. Kind of some other things to talk about. The ban on YouTube has been lifted. I just checked before. Thought we could maybe talk about this real quick. Like, YouTube is so shitty, even around a ban. It tells you you have 7 days until your ban is over. So when I logged in this morning, it's like you have 1 day remaining. And then I logged in like 3 hours later, and it's like you're not banned anymore. So it doesn't even like tell you how much time or what time you're going to be unbanned.
Oh, you were looking to see if it was going to be to the minute?
Yeah, it doesn't tell you. It just leaves it kind of in a gray area. So you can't, like, all this stuff we had to post that we had like kind of like backlogged now. I just, couldn't like schedule it or figure it out.
Oh,
so,
I got you. You literally can't do anything.
When they ban you, they don't give a shit about you at all.
When you don't toe the line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
what
we're
are
talk
we
a little
talking
bit
about here today?
Yeah. The Pro-Wargressives again. Some more stuff came out about that, like I was saying. Got some tweets of the week. Some news out of the New York State Supreme Court that is interesting. And Captain, I know you got some stuff you want to talk about.
Yeah, we'll talk about how there was a few debates this week and the left got decimated.
Oh yeah.
That's what happens when you run off of piss poor policies. We got a little bit of Hillary Clinton. I'm pulling up a receipt. Was it last episode or 2 episodes ago where I said beware of the left starting to talk about how there's going to be problems with election integrity and that this election might not be so safe and secure? Well, I'm going to pull the receipt on that one very quickly.
Yeah. So we could hear the cash register ringing up in this episode. So let's start with our first topic, which I said we're going to pick up kind of where we left off last week, where we were talking about how the squad and progressives really have been just absent in silence about the war in Ukraine. And they're supposed to be progressives. They're supposed to be libs, right? They're supposed to be whatever you want to call them, like socialists. They're supposed to be anti-war. Well, turns out that they finally grew the stones to say something, at least for a day. So
a whole 24 hours.
A whole 24 hours. So this is from The Hill. We're going to be doing a little bit of reading. Oh, are we having the screen share problem again here? This is so bizarre.
Yeah, it's not sharing on my end. Whatever you did for the Hillary part.
It's the FBI trying to stop the production here. Here we go.
Yeah.
All right. So this is from the.
Oh, there we go.
You should be able to see it now. There you go. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So this is from The Hill, and this was on the 24th, a couple of days ago. So progressives urge Biden to push harder for Ukraine peace talks. And now, at first, I was like, "This is great." I'm like, they must have heard our last episode where we put pressure on them. In reality, they probably did feel some pressure from their constituency, like those videos of AOC getting heckled, and people kind of like calling her to task about the war in Ukraine, how they've been silent on it. To some extent, I figured it probably had an effect where they felt they had to say something or do something. So that's kind of how politics is supposed to work, at least. So let's read here. 30 progressive House lawmakers wrote a letter to President Biden on Monday, urging him to consider directly engaging with Russia and to become more assertive in negotiating a ceasefire in Ukraine. Led by Congressional Progressive Caucus Chairwoman Pramila Jayapal, the Democrats asked Biden to advocate harder for peace, noting Russian President Vladimir Putin's threats of nuclear warfare and the billions of dollars of taxpayer dollars spent on the conflict. Given the destruction created by this war for Ukraine and the world, as well as the risk of catastrophic escalation, we also believe it is in the interest of Ukraine, the United States, and the world to avoid a prolonged conflict, the lawmakers wrote. For this reason, we urge you to pair the military and economic support the United States has provided to Ukraine with a proactive diplomatic push, redoubling efforts to seek a realistic framework for a ceasefire, letter continued. The signatories included progressives in the House Democratic Caucus, such as Reps. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Cori Bush, Jamal Bowman, and Mark Pocan. All 30 signatories have voted for more than $50 billion in various forms of assistance to Ukraine since Russia's invasion, and in the letter expressed no regrets for doing so, tying the aid to Ukrainian military successes. All right, so this was on Monday, I believe it was. So we got a good, not even 24 hours again. And it's kind of a little bit eerie and similar to what we were talking about in the last episode with the mandates around children and getting vaccinated. One day you're told one thing, and now the next day you're told the complete opposite. And if you say anything in between, you'll be labeled misinformation or whatnot. You know, and I was a little bit hopeful here. I thought maybe they had come to some, you know, like what they're proposing is just, hey, let's have a discussion and let's talk about a ceasefire. You, Captain, I remember when I showed you this, you were like, nah, I don't believe it. You know, it's you know, you were.
I didn't believe it was real. You know, because I know the importance of this war in Ukraine. We got to launder all the money.
Yeah. So now the next day, this is from Reuters. Liberal U.S. lawmakers withdraw Ukraine letter after blowback. This is October 25th.
So there was blowback. I didn't read this article. Does it mention who the blowback came from?
Sure. So I believe it does. So,
okay.
So this is now the next day. A group of liberal U.S. Democrats withdrew a letter to the White House urging a negotiated settlement to the war in Ukraine. The group's chairperson, Pramila Jayapal, said on Tuesday after blowback from within their own party. The Congressional Progressive Caucus hereby withdraws its recent letter to the White House regarding Ukraine, Jayapal said in a statement. She added, the letter was drafted several months ago, but unfortunately was released by staff without vetting. I don't know about that. I really don't believe that.
That sounds bullshit.
Because if you go back to the first article from the first day, it says that they just released a letter on Monday, and it doesn't mention anything about it being drafted in June or whenever they want to say it was. It's a cop-out. It's almost like they're like, well, you know, we wrote this and we released it now, but it was written by our staff. And no
we
one
didn't
really
get to vet it properly.
Vetted it. None of us looked at it or read it.
Nobody wants to take, shockingly, nobody wants to take responsibility. And it says blowback from within their own party, which is very interesting.
Yeah. The letter signed by 30 caucus members became public on Monday. See, look how they frame it. It became public on Monday. Like Reuters is just covering for just, okay, yes, that's what you said. So leaving some other Democrats feeling blindsided just 2 weeks before the November 8 midterm elections that will determine which party controls Congress. And it appeared just as Republicans face concern that their party might cut back military and humanitarian aid that has helped Ukraine since Russia invaded in February. Several members of the Progressive Caucus issued statements expressing support for Ukraine, noting that they had joined other Democrats in voting for billions of dollars in aid for Ukraine. So, yes, they're now proud of what they've done. They've voted, for more military, more arms. They've got, they voted for more handouts to the military-industrial complex, the progressive, socialist, communists, whatever you want to call them. Some said that they had signed the letter months earlier and that things had changed. Timing in diplomacy is everything. I signed this letter on June 30th, but a lot has changed since then. I wouldn't sign it today, Representative Sarah Jacobs said on Twitter. Representative Jamie Raskin, who also signed, said in a statement he was glad to learn it had been withdrawn and noted its unfortunate timing and other flaws. All right, I mean, come on.
What really has happened? What really has happened that we need to take peace talks off the table? You know what I'm saying? Like what aggressions were made by Russia that were like, you know what? June was one thing, but this is October, and now we can't have peace. We need war. I said it to you in a text message. They got the morning email that said no peace in Ukraine. Big, bold subject matter headline. And they got blowback from their own party. The anti-war left needs you to be pro-war so we could win this war, this proxy war, and make more money and launder more money and feed more money to the industrial complex.
Yeah,
it's too important of a matter. Ukraine is this position on the 5D chessboard that they just for whatever reason, the establishment can't lose, to the point that peace talks are being withdrawn before they're even considered.
Yeah, so you're giving them a lot of credit. You're saying peace talks are being withdrawn. There's no peace
Yeah.
talks. This is a letter.
I don't just
this is a letter
urging,
urging, hey, let's entertain peace talks. One more thing I want to read. The man himself, the grandpa of the squad, has finally commented. We gave him Bernie Sanders a hard time last episode. He hasn't said a word about Ukraine. Now he has. And what does he comment on? He comments to shoot down this letter that his cohorts here wrote. So Bernie Sanders,
his
House
minions.
Progressives. This is from Dave Weigel, and it's on semaphore.com. So Bernie Sanders, House Progressives were wrong on Ukraine. And let's see. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders said Tuesday that the Russian invasion of Ukraine has to be resisted, and that the Congressional Progressive Caucus was right to withdraw a letter that urged President Biden to negotiate an end of the war with Russian President Vladimir Putin. I don't agree with that, and they don't agree with it, apparently, Sanders told Semaphore in a phone interview. It was withdrawn today, so it becomes a non-issue. Everything's okay. It's okay. The squad, the progressives, they're like little good lapdogs. They took their, they took their talking to, and they did what they were told, so it's okay. Everything's all right now.
But do you realize what this non-issue is? No, we're not going to talk peace with the man who threatened to use nuclear weapons. It's no longer an issue.
Yeah, it's
non-issue.
Poof. The possible extinction of life on Earth, non-issue. It's non-issue. Really not at all. Sanders, who is launching a multi-state midterm campaign swing to help Democrats in tough races, remained committed to supporting Ukraine from a major power invading and causing mass destruction. He dismissed the claim from some candidates and some protesters who have called progressive members of Congress warmongers over their votes to fund Ukraine's counteroffensive. Democrats? Warmongers, said Sanders? When you have Putin breaking all kinds of international laws, unleashing an incredibly disgusting and horrific level of destruction against the people of Ukraine, the outrage. How could it be the Democrats who are the warmongers? And I mean, Bernie Sanders is here making that false equivalency, that establishment
the line
talking point. No one is, at least me, you're different. Maybe you have a different view. No one is giving Vladimir Putin a pass. Being anti-war means being against war. So yes, I'm all for Vladimir Putin leaving Ukraine and going home and leaving everything alone. There's no excuse for what he's done. But for you to actively then participate in keeping the war going, that's not anti-war either. But they're set again. This is the psyop. It's come to fruition. What I said, it was always eventually going to lead to being anti-war. Being pro-war is being anti-war. We have to go to war to be against war. That's where we're at.
I always said racism is going to get so out of control that you're going to have to be racist towards black people. Yeah, like it's going to come like full circle.
That is where we're at, in that regard. This is just wild, dude. Having been a former Bernie bro, and he always represented to me like an anti-establishment, like a reappropriation of priorities to be more moral, and definitely always against war. He's always historically been against war. He voted against the war in Iraq and all these other things. But now it's just he's literally like become everything that he fought to against.
You either die the hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
I guess
I mean, I agree with you. Yes, I would like to see on the surface, without the conspiracies. Yes, Putin just should go home and end this crap in Ukraine, and we all go back to living our lives. Conspiracy theory side of me feels there's something about Ukraine that Russia wants, and there's something about Ukraine that America needs to have, the establishment needs to have. I truly believe there's a lot of money laundering going on out there right now. God only knows what else is going on out there. But Sanders had this line where he said that by calling us warmongers, we're giving Putin a pass. No one's disagreeing that Putin isn't a warmonger. We're saying you two you're both being warmongers. Voting to have a proxy war makes you a warmonger. Whether whether you are justifiably saving the people of Ukraine or not, you are providing the money and tools for war. You are mongering the war. There's no where you play all the word gymnastics you want. This, next they're going to change the definition to warmongering.
Right.
They changed definitions of fully vaccinated and gain of function research. Soon they're going to start changing the definition of wartime terms.
Yeah. I don't know, I guess we'll be warmongers, right? Like the people calling for peace and no war, they'll say that we're the warmongers, and they're the ones that are out there fighting. We're fighting for peace. We're fighting a war for peace.
Well, as you always say, I didn't know Ukraine was just west of California. You know what I mean? Like it's like one of our borders now.
Yeah. Like America, the eastern border of the United States is on Russia's border, apparently.
Yeah.
And like just the more you look into it, the more just it doesn't make any sense. What Bernie Sanders here is basically the same argument people made back in 2003 when people were against the war in Ukraine, when guys like Ron Paul were against the war in Ukraine. They would make that false equivalency. Oh, what are you, on the side of the terrorists and bin Laden and Saddam Hussein, who's got weapons of mass destruction? They hate our freedom. We got to go over there and make sure they don't use these weapons of mass destruction. To his credit, Bernie Sanders saw through that shit back then, and he was vehemently opposed to it. Now he's one of them. It's crazy. It really is.
I told
crazy.
you that man sold out.
I know. This is why I'm an anarchist now, an
2016.
anarcho-capitalist, because I don't. That is one of the fundamental reasons why I'm a libertarian anarcho-capitalist, because I now see that this is all bullshit. Everything these people say is false, and you can never trust the government or
give them enough time.
Right. Give them enough time. There's no such thing as like some just moral king who's going to come in here and fix everything. It's the state is rotten to the core, and it's always going to be. You can maybe get a better person here and there. I'm not saying that's impossible, right? That you can't get a better person in charge, but just the way it's laid out to be just disgusting.
And this is all toe the line. This is all for the election. They said it in one of the articles. This comes out 2 weeks before the election. That's a big no.
Right.
Now somebody might have to change their tune, which it just shows, and I'll be talking about this a lot, how terrible the establishment is at running this shit. Because maybe if you started lying a little bit and saying, you know what, we shouldn't be spending all of our tax money in Ukraine, some people might go, oh, good, I could vote for this guy, a Democrat who doesn't want to send my money over to Ukraine, and they get voted in and they fucking send it over there anyway. So,
Yeah, I can see that happening. There's another point I want to make from my best friend, the Connecticut senator of all, Chris Murphy. And he's always been historically involved here in Ukraine. This ain't a tweet of the week, but this is, integral here to the whole thing. So Chris Murphy has commented now, and he says, there is a moral and strategic peril in sitting down with Putin too early. It risks legitimizing his crimes and handing over parts of Ukraine to Russia in an agreement that Putin won't even honor. Sometimes a bully must be shown the limits of his power before diplomacy can work. I mean, I'm trying, at least he's trying to say what their strategy here, I guess, is in a sense, because I'm really trying to see, like, what is it that these people think is the outcome of this? Like, what is their plan? What do they want? So I guess they're trying to say it's too early to negotiate with Putin because.
But with every day wasted, more people die. And all this is about is saving lives and saving the imaginary line that splits up Ukraine from Russia. It's low-hanging fruit, but it's just the new orange man bad. They don't have a mortal enemy for you to focus on, so we have to oppose everything that Putin wants. We can't legitimize his crimes. What is legitimizing his crimes gonna?
Right.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
What is okay, so the two Doom men just legitimized his crimes. Right. Now what?
By what? Saying, right, you know what I mean? By what? Saying that we don't agree anything
peace?
He's done is wrong, is correct? That's like not legitimizing his crimes. Is legitimizing his crimes? Like, I don't understand.
He's committed, whether I'll say they're crimes. Why not? He's already committed them. That's it. There's no putting the toothpaste back in the tube. He's committed these crimes, but we
How
can't
about-
legitimize them for
Right.
whatever that weird means. And then also right away saying there's no way we could trust Putin. So I mean, you sat down with terrorists, you've sat down with Putin
Putin
before.
Right. Many times.
There's every president since Putin's been in power has met with him. And now he's just this most untrusted guy. It's just more propaganda. I was seeing some shit about Russia saying that Ukraine is going to set off a dirty bomb inside of Ukraine on their own people. So then the media could just blame Russia. Yeah.
I mean, that sounds
to an
so
extent,
juicy.
This is, like you say, and I'm saying to an extent, but this is a psyop. I mean, already he's guilty. He's not going to honor the peace talks. There's no we're going to legitimize his crimes, even though he's already committed them. It's just to confuse you.
Even that comment by him, that's a psyop. I mean, am I supposed to believe Vladimir Putin that like he could just use a nuke then and then just say that, and he's now convinced everyone who's a conspiracy theorist, no, it's the Ukrainians. How can you really believe, like, again, how can anyone believe anything that comes out of there or that situation? That's why we should try to negotiate for peace. But let's get ahead of the ball. Let's not use any nukes. Let's stop. Let's before that
do a
happens,
ceasefire for a minute,
And I don't understand the logic there that we can't negotiate and we can't sit down because that somehow legitimizes his crimes. How about we go into a negotiation? This is my idea. This is a Skaggs peace plan. This is how Skaggs would, from the Western point of view, this is how I would negotiate with Vladimir Putin. If I'm going to go on there, like with the Democrats' agenda, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to say, look, this is an illegal invasion. You have to bring all your soldiers back. Everybody's got to go back to Russia. The war is over. You have to step down from power, and then you have to face some sort of international criminal trial or something like that. Start there, right? Start there. That's some sort of negotiation or peace talks. Is he going to accept that? Probably not, right? But you can then come and use your leverage against him. Someone else will take over after him, whatever. But you could at least go there and tell him that. Like, where they don't even want to, like, entertain.
This is a grand.
Go there and make your demand of that. At least start there.
This is a grand scale of when Psaki just could not say, eat healthy and work out, and you'll live a healthier life, because you need to say the vaccine is the only way to live a healthy life.
Yeah.
The only way there will be peace is war with Russia.
Yeah.
It's the most important thing they need to talk about right now, to psyop us, to propagate against us. So you cannot go against this.
You can't, again, I love Game of Thrones. Maybe it's corny, but it just reminds me of Jon Snow, right? When everybody was so angry that he, God forbid, dared propose, like, go and speak with the wildlings and perhaps we negotiate some sort of peace. And they were all, they killed him for it. Literally. They killed Jon Snow for that. But he had a great line, I remember, and he goes, we only make peace with our enemies.
Yeah.
Verifiably true. You don't make peace with someone who's on your side or your friend or someone you're not at war with. You only make peace with the enemy. And go back, down the line of history, would it have been better perhaps to try and make peace with Hitler before he exterminated 6 million Jews? Yeah, probably. Right. But no, they didn't entertain that at all. The guy who was entertaining that, Neville Chamberlain, who they want to tie this whole situation back to that. They want to make that equivalency that this is World War II all over again. Right. And if you're all of us were Neville Chamberlain trying to, like, negotiate with Hitler and make peace. Well, yeah, no, but the outcome was way worse than perhaps entertaining some sort of peace or removal of Hitler through peace.
And now we have.
How many people died in World War II? 50 million, maybe even more. Right? If we could have avoided that somehow because cooler heads could have prevailed, would have been a better outcome. How many Ukrainians got to die here now before we're going to fucking...
If we save one life.
Yeah, we really could. That's my point. How many people got to die before they'll sit down at the table?
It doesn't matter. It's not how many people need to die. They're not even pawns on the board. They're like NPCs in a video game when, you're the zombie horde and you just fire into the crowd. That's what Congress and the powers that be around the world view its citizens. You're just meat for the meat grinder. It's really how much money needs to be laundered, what deals need to be, backroom deals need to be completed, what grounds can we get, what laws can we change, how can we insert this into the government, how can we expand our authority,
how can we better
through and
improve our
across Ukraine.
geopolitical,
Yeah.
situation, expand the empire.
However long that needs to take. That's how long this is going to go on for. Not how many people die. They could literally start shipping people into Ukraine just to make the population sustainable, because we're just buzzsawing them down. They don't care.
That's a good point.
They don't care.
That's a good way to look at it. I like that. It's pretty wise words there from the captain.
There you go.
And just going back to the progressives, what we started here. I think I've made this point again before. I'll probably make it again. These are people who tell us in 30 years the world's going to end because of climate change, right?
Yeah.
If we don't vote for Marxism and get rid of our gasoline engines, we're all going to die. But a thing that can actually kill all of us and actually end verifiably, if every nuke is launched, could end all life on Earth. No, there's nothing we could do about it. Sorry, we got to retract our
climate
statement.
change is going to come 30 years early, and it don't matter if we sign the green deal, the blue deal, the yellow deal. Don't fucking matter.
Yeah, I mean, it's look. If you're someone still on the left somehow, I really hope this has like blown these people wide open for you.
It's funny.
Phony. It's fake. It's all a lie.
I saw it briefly. It wasn't one of the tweets I saved, but Brooklyn Dad said, "If you don't know who you're voting for in 2 weeks, what the fuck are you doing?" And I was like, "This motherfucker's spitting." Like, he's finally said something smart, because I don't know how anybody could be undecided now. You either are looking for some type of change, or you're just a retard, just hurting for more punishment.
Hurting for a squirting, yeah.
Yeah.
Hurting for a nuclear squirting.
Yeah.
What's up, everyone? It's Skaggs, and I'm here to tell you about a new partner of ours, the Patriot Cigar Company. Now, I don't know about you, but I like to casually enjoy a good cigar with a nice glass of bourbon, especially during the fall months. The Patriot Cigar Company just launched their first 5 cigars, including the Hellfire, TNT, Mark 48, and Moab. Each cigar is handmade with premium tobacco that is aged a minimum of 3 years in Nicaragua. The best part about it is that you can go to mypatriotcigars.com and use our promo code, DOOMED, for 15% off your purchase. So if you're ready to sit back and enjoy a nice cigar around the campfire, head on over to their website and see what they have to offer using the link in our episode description below. Yeah, man, I don't know. Do you want to mix it up? Let's go to some tweets of the week real quick. I thought we would insert
you want to do,
perhaps in between.
I think we got 2 each, so maybe we do 1 each.
Yeah, let's just do them. Just get them out
All
of
right.
the way. All right, so I'll start with mine. We're going back to Thomas Massey. He's been on a roll lately. And Thomas Massey says, the anti-war left emerged from hibernation yesterday, but saw its shadow. So we're in for at least another 6 weeks of war. I thought that was pretty good. Clever by Thomas Massey.
Clever girl.
Oh, God.
Mr. Young Turks. All right, Cenk. Fetterman didn't look good last night, but right now I wouldn't vote for a Republican at the national level if my life depended on it. Would I go for a guy I generally agree with who is having some health issues, or a guy who supports fascists? How is that a hard question? I mean, just blinding, low-hanging, toe-the-line fruit. I'd rather vote for another brain-dead moron, aka Brandon Biden, and I don't even like Oz as a goddamn candidate. I don't.
Yeah, no one in MAGA liked Oz at all. I even told you last night, I was like, dude, I don't like Dr. Oz, and John Fetterman's getting me to fucking root for Dr. Oz.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Yeah. But I mean, just toe the line. I'd rather die than vote Republican. Let's vote in sick people first. How do you think anything's going to get better? How do you think? You know what I mean? Like you're vetting a boxer for a fight. All right. And the clone of a 22-year-old Mike Tyson shows up with fucking literally iron fists, and you pick a blind child with one leg. You know what I mean? Like, yes, let's give little Jimmy a try. Little Jimmy's our champion.
It's it's interesting, right? If we are going to keep up this facade of democracy and that like these people that we put in power, they're important and they're powerful and they're there to represent us, like,
yeah,
they at least got to be physically capable to do the job at minimum. If you're going to keep, because I don't really give a shit. I think it's a terrible system now, but you guys are the one that love democracy. So you got to at least, like, you can't, like, are we going to, vote in Daemon Targaryen, my pop, next?
Yeah.
Like, just a useless piece of fucking vinyl is going to be
that's what Fetterman is, a useless piece of meat.
I guess so at this point.
That's why he has more meat growing out of his neck.
All right, so we're gonna laugh here. The next one of mine, and this is from Alex Stein, number 99. So now, sorry to those of you who are listening. This is more of a you're gonna have to watch this. So this is Alex Stein at Penn State, and he says Penn State cutie protester spits on primetime 99.
You're my favorite.
Fuck you!
I say it.
You are the reason you are the fucking reason we're all here today. You are the fucking
Thank you for coming. Thank y'all for buying tickets. Oh, I love you. I love you. I think you're a really nice woman. Hey, luckily I like that fetish. She does that. That turns me on. Now she turned me on. How am I going to see?
That shit turns me on. I find those like things that happen on college campuses so fascinating. Like if I know that at Penn State was like the Proud Boys. I think Gavin McInnes was there giving a speech or something. So that's why all these people were obviously losing their shit. But I mean, like, if you watch a lot of the other videos of Alex Stein, he's not even doing anything. He just walks around, and people are like angry at his presence there. And
because that's how easy it is to trigger some of these shit libs.
It's just, I'm pretty sure in that video they're calling him a fascist. Right?
Yeah,
these are people who are using basically threats of intimidation and violence against other people who are coming there to speak, and they're calling the people that are coming there to speak fascists. It's the most. I mean, maybe we sound crazy, right? But they are psyoped. Fascism is taking like the threat of force or dictatorship, whatever you want to call it, and then using that to silence people, and they can't, no freedom, no democracy, no nothing. That's what these people are doing, but they're calling him as anti-war, a fascist.
You are anti-war, so that means you are pro-war. Like, it just, every up is down, down is up. Yeah. There was, not to like bring it up, there was a Q drop a while ago. I wish I could find it. Maybe like one of the We the People guys or something, where it's like, where it just straight up said like everything's going to be backwards. You know what I mean? Like, just whatever, if they say right, they mean left. If they mean war, they mean peace. You know, just it's all to confuse you.
Yeah, I guess so, man. I guess so. That'd be an interesting one to look in. So we got one left. This is the captain's. What do you got?
All right, let's see. Call to activism. Democrats aren't just running against Republicans. We are running against the fucking media who refuses to talk about all the good Democrats are doing. I am sick of it. Anyone else? I want these people's drug dealers numbers, because they are getting some wild shit.
It really is. Looking at? I mean, I'm just looking like, what is this page? Like, who are these people? What is this? Because you're right. I mean, look,
it's been an interesting phenomenon that I've been noticing on Twitter, and Cenk is one of them who really throws it out there that now that like the Democrats are in charge, like they can't handle, like they think like the media is just against them 24/7. Like, it was perfectly fine for the media to be against like Donald Trump and the Republicans 24/7. But now they truly believe like they're against the Democrats, because I guess they're not spinning the stories hard enough. But by that theory though, like, we've proven that the media is against Republicans. Anything a Republican does is extreme, right? You're a right-wing extremist. Now we're saying the media isn't portraying the Democrats in the proper positive light. So why don't we step back from being triggered and look at that situation? The media is talking shit about the left and the right. Maybe the media is the fucking problem, and it's not the left and it's not the right being the right. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe we wake up and we realize we have a lot more in common than than our differences that make us quote unquote enemies. You're saying the right is corrupt. I'm saying the left is corrupt. But we could both agree on there's corruption in the government. We could both agree on that the media is not portraying the correct information. Maybe we should band together and work against that shit.
What is it Michael Malice says? The corporate press is the enemy of the people, right?
Yeah.
It always probably has been. Yeah, but what you're arguing or advocating there for, Cap, is what happened in 2008, 2009 with Occupy Wall Street, Tea Party movement. And that's when the introduction of woke stuff and identitarian politics all took a root right around that time. So again, think I'm crazy, whatever, look into it. Yeah. It's all psyop. I don't know if those people necessarily even mean it the way that you're laying it out there. I think they probably legitimately believe that the media is against Democrats. I mean,
I don't know why.
Yeah, like, let's use, for example, did you see the video of President Biden recently getting interviewed? I think he was on MSNBC and he like falls asleep for a second while they were interviewing
No,
him.
I saw him. I saw him get lost on stage once again. They're going to literally have to rope off the direction this man walks. I also saw him try and say that they removed trillions from the deficit, and it was just and then the other one was he once again declared that the majority of people that are going to die from COVID this year are going to be the unvaccinated. Again, he's doubling down on the winter of death. He was wrong last year, and I don't imagine he's going to be right this year.
Look, I mean, if you think that the corporate media or the media is against Democrats, let's watch this video.
I have not made that formal decision, but it's my intention to run again. And we have time to make that decision.
Dr. Biden is for it. Mr. President. Oh.
Dr. Biden thinks that, my wife thinks that.
Mr. President. Oh. What happened here?
Let's float him. Let's float him.
He dozed off for a second.
Yeah.
He literally dozed off for a second. And the interviewer here on MSNBC literally went, oh, like to try and wake him up. Like, hey, you falling asleep over there, buddy? Imagine if that was, look, let's pick the low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Imagine if that was Donald Trump who fell asleep with the
interviewer would have stood up and drop kicked him off that chair.
Or he would have went, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Wake up.
He would have sweet chinned music him right out of that chair.
So this is just one dumb example, but give me a fucking break. If
this goes back to Fetterman and the tweet of the week. Let's vote for sick people.
Yeah, exactly. Or let's, cover for sick people, man. Like, even going into that Fetterman Dr. Oz debate, like they were like, Brooklyn Dad and all the shit libs, the MSNBC, all these things that were like already beginning to like run cover pieces for Fetterman. Like, they knew Fetterman wasn't going to do good in his debate because they know like he's, and I kind of a little bit feel bad for Fetterman, right? Because he's definitely still being pressured into continuing to run because Democrats are desperate.
Yeah. I always say that about Joe Biden. I mean, forget I'm more than positive he has this horrific past. I know without a shadow of a doubt he has blood on his hands. When you remove all that, like, look at your grandma, look at your grandfather, this is a poor old man put in a position that not only, I'm sure, does he not want to be in, but he can't escape. When he got into politics, 50 years ago now, 60 years ago, 40 some odd years ago, he never imagined his end game being a senile citizen trapped in the fucking White House. You know what I'm saying?
I think maybe you're giving the guy a little bit too much credit. I think he's always had aspirations.
I'm
not trying to compare Joe Biden to John Fetterman here.
Well,
Say
my
what you want
point
about.
is,
Okay, good.
my point is, at the end of the day, like, yes, Fetterman is a human being who went through this medical situation and can't even really recover from it because towing the line for the establishment is more important than this man's health. And, you know, maybe if he does recover, they can make a hero's tale of it, how he campaigned through all the rehab and blah, 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 and still was able to beat out the MAGA extremists. That's easy enough to do. But I mean, it cannot be easy to be traveling and interviewing and running numbers. Being a politician on just the surface is not easy. You know,
it's not. Yeah. My point was going to be like, I don't feel bad at all for Joe Biden. Fetterman, I feel a little bit bad for, John Fetterman. I don't like his policies. I think they're shit. I think he'd be an awful senator. However, he is not the blood-soaked monster, at least yet, that Joe Biden is in general, right? So he's just a guy trying to toe the line and win the seat, like get into power, get his foot in the door of power. And he just ain't cut out for it. He had a stroke. He should be allowed to go and, just be a normal person and heal. Get better. Like they shouldn't be forcing someone in like to continue because, that's the guy we chose. And he was kind of popular because he has that fucking hoodie look about him or whatever. So they want to keep him running. No, he had a stroke. That's it. Like there's more important shit in life.
Yeah, look at Defiant L's. Brooklyn Dad said Trump had a stroke and he needs to be removed from office immediately because he's going to put the country in danger. But now here's Brooklyn Dad literally pushing a stroke victim. Vote for the stroke victim.
It's the same thing. That shows you how like fraudulent a person like that on Twitter is. And I mean, that was, like a Brooklyn Dad. They're fraudulent. Yeah. It's not real. They're fake. And those are the guys that the White House literally had there last week. Had all of them, had all those shit-lived, fake fucking phony propagandists in there. Probably to give them the memo in person. Yeah. Or give them little medals or something.
Here's the CIA there. They're, welcome to the CIA. Here's your badges, your license to kill. I know you guys are anti-gun, but here's your gun. Like just mission briefings and that
would have been.
We're gonna send you to Ukraine next. You could do a TikTok in the streets.
I wonder if they were given like a guide, like here's the plan for leading up to midterms.
I believe it.
This is what you're going to talk about. This is the narratives you're going to spin. That'd be interesting.
Well, they've already admit that the government has already admit they work with Google and Facebook to determine what is misinformation and disinformation and what stories to push. So it's not hard to believe that the White House and this administration would invite its basically Twitter generals to the White House and give them some type of briefing. Yeah, we'll take pictures on the lawn and we'll shake hands and there'll be a TV crew there and we're going to have a nice lunch. But then we got some business to do. You're not just going to come here and get out scot-free. Yeah.
All right. Enough about Brooklyn Dad, and then we complain about him and those idiots enough. Let's move on to our next.
We should start trying to campaign to get him on the show.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. It really would, honestly.
He
would never do it, obviously. Someone like that will never debate or go at, talk to somebody who's interested in hearing truth or pressing them on something like that. It would never happen.
I'd like to Project Veritas him and get him fucking hammered and hidden camera.
Yeah, definitely. We'd have to
they bought me a BMW and paid for my tuition. Like, just everything comes out, all the bribes and shit. All right, enough about this idiot.
Yeah, fuck him. All right, so next topic. New York City appeals. Oh, okay, sorry. So New York City appeals judge's ruling that could reinstate fired unvaccinated employees.
Oh, wait, so they changed this one too now?
I guess so. I'm pretty sure I saved this earlier, and this was just about the original story. Let's see.
All right. So for context, in the state of New York, you if you were a police officer or a doctor, what happened?
No, keep going. Sorry. Well, I can find.
So if you were a police officer or a doctor, as most of you know, or if you were a nurse or a firefighter, if you did not get vaccinated, you would be fired from your job. Wouldn't be able to collect unemployment. You weren't allowed to get religious exemptions, blah, blah, blah. You had to take this or you got fired. And there was a New York Supreme Court hearing that overturned this, and they were ordered to rehire everyone they fired for not getting the vaccine and pay them back pay, which means you didn't work for the past 16 months. We're going to pay you in one check 16 months. And now apparently they are appealing that.
Yeah, why I'm caught off guard here is because like this article got changed, and I went to Eyewitness News, ABC7. It's a local article.
Did we just catch a psyop? Like, did they?
I don't know, dude. This article I had saved to read here was about the New York State Supreme Court overturning this thing and saying everything you just laid out. Now it's about something completely else. Now it's about New York City appealing the judge's ruling that could reinstate fired and vaccinated employees. So I mean, like, they're still I mean, I guess, of course, right? Like, they're on the hook for a lot of money now. So, of course, they don't want to pay that. Yeah, I mean, even this Supreme Court ruling, it said that it was basically obviously unconstitutional. And it even mentioned that, you know, what we talked about a couple episodes ago, which, like, getting vaccinated doesn't prevent transmission for COVID-19. So it was all founded on bullshit, the mandate.
And I think you should add in what you were saying the other day, too.
Yeah, that's going to be my main point here. You know, and it's kind of what we talked about a little bit already. It's like, this system is so flawed that we live in of government, you know, and why I'm an anarcho-capitalist now, or a libertarian, whatever you want to fucking call me. You can pass a law like New York City, New York State did, and that law mandates that you get a fucking medical procedure. And if you don't, you're going to lose your job. And then maybe you chose not to. Right? You're like, fuck it, I'm not doing it. And then you lose your job and your life is completely ruined, right? You don't have any source of income. Maybe you lose your house, you lose your girlfriend, your family breaks up. Maybe you even fucking kill yourself, right? A few months later, something like that. I'm sure you dig hard enough, you'll find a story like that. Well, sorry, it turns out that was unconstitutional about a year later.
Whoopsie.
Whoops. And guess what? There's no accountability. You could pass an illegal law, and it could actually, like, damage people's lives pretty bad, like, to the worst possible measure anyone could damage someone's life. And that's it. Like, there's a time delay. Whoops, sorry, we fucked your whole life over. The people who pass that, there's not going to be any accountability for them. They don't go to jail. Something has to, that's not right. That doesn't work good. If you pass, I don't know. Let's come up with, like, what should happen here in this scenario.
It's amazing that people, you know, don't revolt in the streets.
Just the idea of that, like the premise of that is fucked up. It doesn't make sense. If we're going to subject things to, like, judicial review, it's got to happen before the law goes into effect, at least at minimum. It's not perfect, but you know, just a whoopsie. You know, how many times
this leads into the psyop. This leads into why the progressives pulled back their peace talks letter, you know, urging Biden to at least start it, because at that time COVID was the mission, and the mission was to inoculate everybody. Didn't matter. We will hurt you however we can possibly figure out to hurt you, to do exactly what we want you to do. And it didn't matter. You're going to tell me Congress didn't know it was unconstitutional back a year ago when they were doing this? They damn well knew it was, but they wanted to push their agenda. And you still see people pushing the agenda even after the CDC changes its opinion on that agenda.
Yeah.
There's still people out there following the day one rules of COVID. That's insane. You know what I'm saying? Like, you've done no research. You just accepted the first ground rules of COVID as the rules for the rest of your life now.
So you said before, these people know that it's not constitutional what they did. So, I mean, I guess that means that there is some sort of high moral virtue that, like, what is constitutional or not, right? But they'll change who's in the Supreme Court, and they'll put people on there who then agree with them that this would be constitutional or not. Like, they'll use the time delay to try and get that done. So again, this just points back to the whole state system is fucking flawed. I'm not saying the Constitution is bad. It's a good, like, if they actually stuck to it, it's a good, like, framework. They haven't. So, I mean, that is a criticism of the Constitution itself, that it could just, like, not be followed, right? And,
It's, as Biden says, it's not absolute.
right. But just think about that. I want people just like think about how that system works. Like the system is flawed. It doesn't work. They could change it and they could use the system against you. They could then say, this is constitutional. This reminds me of anatomy of the state. The ultimate check on something is that it's constitutional, right? Then the ultimate say on it not being constitutional is you saying that it's not constitutional. That doesn't mean shit. It's just people interpreting fucking pieces of paper. People are prejudiced. They're biased as much as they want to say they ain't. So I don't know. Believing in yourself and, you know, you being your own king is preferable to me than this whole fucking stupid system.
Well, speaking of people who are afraid of stuff like that, I think we got a little clip from Hillary Clinton.
Oh, yeah.
Nice roll into this. I am pulling up a receipt. I don't think it was last episode. I think it was maybe the week before or so, where I said start watching out in the media for terms of election denying. Oh, you're going to vote in an election denier, and it's a threat to our democracy. An election denier is somebody who doesn't fully believe the 2020 election was legitimate. Some people still believe that Biden didn't win. It's your opinion. I'm not telling YouTube, calm down. I'm not giving any reason to, say the election was rigged. And then I said to start watching out for the left before the midterms to start talking about how the election is going to be rigged. And they're already talking about how this might not be a safe and secure election. I'm pretty sure the Department of Justice did something at the end of the week or maybe Monday or something.
Something I read before we even started recording this was the Attorney General of Pennsylvania.
Yep.
Interim Attorney General of Pennsylvania said like, oh, just be prepared. Like, we're not going to be able basically to efficiently counter verify the election results probably until a few days after the Pennsylvania election. So but yeah, I don't even really lean into the election being rigged or anything like that myself personally, because I think just the whole system is fucking a farce to begin with. But they're like floating.
They're
that
already
stuff out
preemptive.
Yeah,
preparing,
laying the groundwork. Like, oh yeah, just be prepared. We're not going to be able to give you the results on election day again for fucking 200 and something years. They could, right? But now you can't anymore.
And if a Republican wins, it's perfectly fine to say the election's rigged. If a Democrat wins, it's the most safe and secure election. So here's Hillary Clinton worried about the state gaining more power, worried about the Supreme Court, right-wing extremism in the Supreme Court. Let's just go through it. And they put this teleprompter
let her
way too high. She's looking up to God in this fucking video.
She's got to do like me and try and put the camera at the angle of the computer where you're at least.
Maybe
it's not always perfect.
Maybe she's actually in hell and is looking up and is like, I'm still giving speeches from down here. I mean, I'm the CEO.
This kind of reminds me of like V for Vendetta, like Mr. Creedy, whatever his name was, the totalitarian leader of England, like on the big screen. Like the big face. This is kind of what this reminds me of too.
Maybe it's a backdrop and they fucking pulled her out of her cell from Guantanamo and you're like, you're gonna say this.
This could be her lizard pod or something like that. So let's see what what the old battle axe here has to say.
Hello, indivisibles. I'm here to highlight something that is keeping me up at night. And I know this group.
All right, let's just stop there already. I mean, like, how can you even watch this and pretend that that's some sort of authentic behavior? Hello, individuals. Like, it's just so fucking phony, just right off the bat. She hasn't even said anything yet, and it's just exuding phoniness.
At least she's not falling asleep or started by saying goodnight.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right. So, 1 point for Hillary. She didn't say okay.
Hello, everyone. She's doing okay so far.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, by today's standards, she's doing pretty good. All right.
Really understands what I'm about to say. I know we're all focused on the 2022 midterm elections, and they are incredibly important. But we also have to look ahead, because you know what? Our opponents certainly are. Right-wing extremists already have a plan to literally steal the next presidential election. And they're not making a secret of it. The right-wing controlled Supreme Court may be poised to rule on giving state legislatures, yes, you heard me that correctly, state legislatures the power to overturn presidential elections. Just think, if that happens, the 2024 presidential election could be decided not by the popular vote or even by the anachronistic electoral college.
All right.
Who she's a part of. She is part of the electoral
She
college.
is.
But
She just insinuated, she tried to like backtrack real quick, but she just insinuated that the presidential election is decided by the popular vote. It never, ever has been.
No.
Ever.
No.
But she tried to somehow pass that off as if it has. And then she kind of like,
well, because that's her point of view. She wants one of her policies is to get rid of the electoral college and make the election a popularity race.
yeah, by the popular vote, which I used to be a proponent of back in the day, but now I hate democracy, so I think it's not such a good idea. Let's see what else you have.
And she's also scared of the state having more power.
Yeah,
the federal government.
Correct.
Federal government's going to lose a little bit of power.
Correct.
The state
right?
government's going to gain some power.
They hate the idea of decentralization, as we've spoken about on the show many, many times, right? I mean, America is supposed to be a republic of states, not a democracy. It's supposed to be a republic. And the states are supposed to, like, you know, be kind of like their own little countries that have a say. But no, these people, they want a more centralized, strong federal government that has the final say and rule on everything.
Because I'm sorry to interrupt you, but because they're afraid people vote with their feet. But if there's centralized power and the federal government has blanket what?
Yeah, right. It wouldn't matter.
It wouldn't matter where you go. You're trapped no matter what.
Yeah, right. The whole country is now Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
If they got their way.
You know, Chicago and California and LA start doing fucking terrible because of all their piss poor policies. And everybody starts moving to Tennessee and Florida and Texas, which they basically already are. But now only Texas has power over them. We can't allow that.
Yep. All right. Let's see what she's got to say.
But by state legislatures, many of them Republican controlled. But there's also good news in the face of this very real threat to democracy. Indivisible has launched Crush the Coup to make sure we're ready to defend democracy in 2024. They've put together a list of critical races in 6 key states and how you can get involved. Will you support Crush the Coup by donating to Indivisible and state legislatures?
It's interesting, right? She says they've put together a list of 6 critical races in 6 places in the country and how you can get involved to get involved in them, right? So what is that exactly? What does she mean? 6 races are going to definitely be 6 critical local races. Right now, theoretically, the promise of our country is that the local population votes for their representative to then go to Congress or wherever to then represent them to the rest of the body. She's at the same time while saying that people are looking to overthrow our democracy and whatever and rig the election. She is advertising an organization that is calling on other people who don't live in those localities to get involved in those local races to influence them, tell people who to vote for, promote maybe for them, whatever. So at the same time, when she's saying people are going to, overthrow the election, she's calling for people to get involved in elections that have nothing to do, in it. Like, let me give you an example. Like she's basically sending out the word to some left-wing California Antifa member, hey, go to Pennsylvania and make sure you get involved in the Fetterman Dr. Oz election and make sure you cause a ruckus there and make sure people know that they should vote for Dr. Oz, right? That is exactly what she's saying other people are trying to do, right? If you're some California Antifa member, you have no business going to Pennsylvania and getting involved in Oz Fetterman because you don't live there. It's a local election. But that's what she is advocating for while telling you that's what the other side is doing, in a sense.
Legislature candidates. Each of these races is highly competitive, and your dollars could very well decide the winners and the winner of the next presidential election. This could not be more important or more urgent.
So it's
Yeah,
interesting.
aren't you
that,
inspired?
Yeah, it's funny that she's so concerned about the Republican controlled Supreme Court. But if we had their way, they would pack the court just enough so it would be a Democrat controlled Supreme Court. And then
These
there
are
wouldn't
the-
be an issue
these are the
anymore.
non-fascist people. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, that just also proves my point about the whole system is fucking flawed, right?
Yeah.
And we've made that point on this podcast many times. It's like, why do you want to pack the court? Because you want people in there who agree with your ideology. And why is the court like not doing what you want now? It's because the court majority of it doesn't agree with your ideology.
Yeah,
they agree with another ideology. So please stop selling me on the fucking thing that the court is impartial, because that's a farce. It's not, never has been, never will be. So please stop pretending like it is. The scales of justice are blind like the statue. It's a fucking lie.
We've gotten to the point where there is so much corruption. The only way the corruption will proceed is if you have 100% control of the White House, Congress, the House of Representatives, the Senate, the Supreme Court, the state legislature, like it 100% across the board, coast to coast, needs to be like all Democrat or all Republican, you know what I mean? Or otherwise their way of life just isn't going to continue.
Yeah.
And it also shows they are worried. They are worried.
Yes.
They know they've been overplaying their hand. They know they don't have good contenders. They know the other guy is saying what people want to hear, and they are scared.
I think that's the name of this episode. They are worried.
Yeah.
Right. And you're right. They are, because if they weren't, they wouldn't be telling progressives to retract their letter, you know, urging for peace.
They wouldn't be pushing a stroke victim.
Yeah. They wouldn't be over here, like, you know, encouraging people to get involved in local races they have nothing to do with. If you watched any of those debates over the past couple of days, yeah, they should be worried. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, there were a lot. I didn't get to watch them all. I watched a couple. I watched a little bit of Fetterman and Oz. Watched a little bit of Lee Zeldin and Kathy Hochul. I watched a little bit of DeSantis and Charlie Crist. I'm not a Republican. I'm a libertarian registered member. Boy, the Democrats are in trouble. They did not do good in any of these debates whatsoever. They really just made poor points. They just, I don't feel it. I really don't. I feel like the red wave is inevitable.
For the first time after the disaster that Kathy Hochul is, going into that debate. Thank God she only agreed to one, because there's no chance she would win if she had another one to go through. This is the first time I actually believe Zeldin could win in New York. I think enough people might show up to where they can't rig the counting and Zeldin wins, but we'll see how that turns out. I always said this. I don't know when I started saying it. Probably right after Trump got elected. I was like, how is the left going to run on all these piss poor policies? How are they really going to run on open borders, bail reform, more money to the Green New Deal? Now we got proxy wars. We got vaccine mandates. These are all very unpopular, costly, inflation driving policies that are only hurting us. And it's finally coming to full circle. They're going to run on it, but they're going to fail. You know what I mean? It's incredible to watch. And it brings up the question we always talk about, are they just that stupid and truly believe these are good policies, or is it nefarious? I still don't really fully have an answer. Maybe you got an opinion on that, but this is what happens when you run this long on piss poor policies.
I don't think they're even running on any of these policies that you're talking about, right?
They're just towing the line.
If you really look at what they're running on, it's like the woke shit. Biden was being interviewed by some non-binary trans person the other day, and he was out there defending trans rights. They're running on that. They're trying to run on abortion. But the actual, if you look at all the polling, data from everywhere, right? Even the biased places, when they ask people, what are you concerned about right now? Americans, what are you concerned about? It's inflation, the economy, war, crime. Those are none of the things that the Democrats are actually out there running on or talking about. To the Republicans' credit, that is the stuff that they are talking about, right? So just logically, like if you poll everyone in the country and their concern is the economy, and then you as a politician come along and be like, hey, I'm concerned about the economy too, that person's probably going to vote for you. When the other person's like, I'm concerned about a threat to democracy or January 6th or chopping off little girls' tits or whatever they want to like that. That's what they're concerned about, right?
I said
most normal people are like, I'm not concerned about that right now.
I had a great conversation with somebody today. It's just the Democrats have overplayed their hand on every topic. And it's hilarious to watch, like, these politicians realize, like, wait, you guys don't care about vaccines and Ukraine? You care that you just got robbed in the subway earlier? How can that be? How? You should be more concerned if your assailant was vaccinated. You know, like,
that's because they don't live in the real world, bro. They're not the ones getting robbed. They have fucking armed security and gated communities and whatnot. They're not dealing with the problems that like your average New York City resident in, Washington Heights or wherever.
Dude, Hochul's death sentence was saying, I don't see why it's so important to arrest criminals, or whatever she said.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, her opponent, literally because of these terrible bail reforms, was almost stabbed on stage during his campaign trail. And then a teenager was killed outside of his house.
Yeah.
Okay. And the guy who tried to stab him was released 24 hours later with no bail because these policies work. Okay.
Yeah. And it's really just, it's crazy. I really hope, I gotta be honest, hope she loses. Really do.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to
Red
see.
wave,
I don't
baby.
think, me, I would have preferred Larry Sharpe to be the governor of New York. He was the best person. By and large, the Republican Party did fuck him over. They sued to get him off the ballot, which they did. So, even Republicans are obviously shitty. I'm not a fucking Republican, but
I try
like
and tell
to see if
people
Lee Zeldin wins. See what happens.
Yeah, I try and tell people this because, I mean, like Brooklyn Dad said, if you know who you're voting for yet, what the fuck are you doing? And it's pretty, it's biased from me coming, but like, we also got to be careful just voting straight red. There's rhinos, there's fucking plants,
that's what the Libertarian Party is for.
Yeah.
Right. The Libertarian Party is for, as I've been trying to tell you lately, the Libertarian Party is for when you have one of those scenarios where you have some shit fucking Republican, you are there to spoil him, right? Or to, hey, if you don't get better, if you're a rhino, you damn well you fucking run a Libertarian against him, right?
Yeah.
Because hey, if you're scared that you're gonna split that Republican vote because people are gonna vote for the Libertarian, then be a better fucking Republican, right?
Yeah.
And if you are, then we won't, like, I think I've said this before, like, ain't no Libertarian running against Thomas Massey or Rand Paul, right? Of course not, because they're essentially really good, right? So there's no reason to run anybody against them. So that is a little leverage that the Libertarian Party can have and should wield, definitely. And by any and all means, you should wield some little tiny influence over votes you can, some political fucking power you can. You should go and vote on election day. I don't like the system. I don't know if it's rigged or not, but it's like a low cost thing to do. You just go
just to make it be sure.
You just give it a shot, right?
Yeah.
See what happens. Don't be a nihilist, right? And be like, oh, there's no point to me doing anything because no matter what, the world is over and there's nothing I could do. Yeah, you're really gonna fucking improve anything by having that sort of mindset.
If you're tired of any of this, man, this is your way. This is your one little bit of a way. You're not going to start a podcast. You're not going to start a blog. You're not going to become an influencer. At least you could go out there and fill in a few little fucking bubbles.
Yeah. Get your fucking lead number 2 pencil and fill out a bubble. Yeah, not even many. It's like 4 or 5 bubbles, and that's it.
My parents were asking me today. I was like, I think there's like 5 people on the ballot. Like, it's not going to be crazy. Like, you'll be able to figure it out.
It's not one of those like statistics Scantron exams that you have to take back in high school. So
if Joshua leaves the train station going 500 miles an hour heading east, and Stephanie takes a helicopter traveling west, leaving at 1 o'clock in the afternoon going 200 miles, when is Lee Zeldin going to win?
Yeah, that would be the question. Yeah. That's like critical race politics or something like that.
You know what? They probably start putting a math test on the ballot.
They should, right? Maybe you have to prove that you're somewhat educated to vote. But all right, let's. I think we'll end it there. Unless you got anything else you want to talk about.
No,
What do we got
sir,
coming
I'm
up?
good.
What do we got coming up,
We
sir?
got the Halloween special, baby. It's
Yeah.
going to be a fun time. We're dressing up. We're going to have guests. It's going to be a goofy, off-topic horror experience. We'll talk about serial killers because Jeffrey Dahmer is super popular, and probably horror movies and all types of spooky goodness.
Yeah, watch the second episode of the show, Dahmer Show now. So that's right. We will be recording that this coming Saturday, and if all goes according to plan and all goes well, that will be out on Halloween on Monday. So look out for that.
All right, Doom Nation, thank you guys for listening. As always, make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and adios.